Hey, and welcome to Keep Sane, cheaper than therapy. Today is going to be episode, or right now, I shouldn't really even say today. It's going to be episode 12 about the eclipse. Um, so yes, it is August 21st, 2017, and not to be as what it would be referenced as like Debbie Downer or anything. Gotta say, I've seen way better, cooler sci-fi things. I know reality versus that, but the awesomeness of it we can't witness. I mean, putting the glasses on takes all the really majestic part of it out. I mean, I'm sorry, it was a conceptually neat, awesome historical thing, and I don't want to be the negative guy, but everybody, oh, so amazing. As a joke, I took a light bulb and a plate and can replicate the halo. Put on a pair of shades and squint a bit, and it's the same effect. It's just it loses its awesomeness. We could easily replicate this idea all the time. Yes, the I do, being in Oregon, I was at not total where I live doesn't have didn't have the totality of it all, but know people that went to the path that had totality, and yeah, it was more dramatic for them. It actually went dark for a moment or whatever, or like hey, it wasn't even dark dark. It was like like shadowed. Um, so the only thing about it is for all the hype and all the money people spent and all the time to witness this once in a lifetime opportunity, it's just one of those things, you know, in light of everything else, it just seems like such a waste of energy. If you enjoyed it, great. Just don't try to convince me it was awesome. It wasn't. Um, and it wasn't, I mean, there wasn't anything majestic about it. I mean, biggest day of our lives. I mean, I've heard multiple people say, or biggest event in our lives. I'm sorry, if a shadow on the earth is the biggest thing in your life, maybe you should reevaluate your life. There's been, I mean, the fall of the wall in Germany was way bigger of an event. The birth of my either of my children, bigger event. Either of my wedding days, bigger event. Personally, worldwide, yeah, the wall would have been a bigger event. Any of the world wars, bigger event. Of course, I wasn't alive for either of those. Um, but people who lived through Vietnam or any of those were bigger historical events and their impact on the world than the moon giving a shadow to the sun. Um, Again, I don't want to be that person who takes out enjoyment. I'm just asking for a little bit of scope. I guess I'll actually use this to talk about hyperbole. Um, the over exaggeration. Because there's nothing wrong with enjoying something. There is something wrong with the mentality of, you know, making it the greatest or awesomest or, exaggerating and, you know, all that stuff. Cutest. Most people have this, I have the best husband or the best wife or the smartest kid or the cutest kid. I mean, chances are, the chances of that being a true statement are almost none. Especially with beauty. Beauty's in the eye of the beholder. So you might, the world might think your kid's really attractive. Someone else might think your kid's pretty homely. Um, I can think of celebrities that are touted as gorgeous that, more in the female category. And I don't mean to bash women. I they get judged pretty harshly for their looks enough. But if you want to make them a sex symbol, I'm sorry, a no curves woman does not win my most beautiful woman contest. Women are born, they're if they're going to be flat, it sucks that they don't have those, sexual traits for them, I guess. I'm not a woman, can't say. But, mine's going to be someone curvy, actual, hips, actual, chest. Um, and not to degrade women, but that's, I mean, one, tends to be how we're raised, cleavage and at least the taboo of it. But as far as arousal, I mean, I like long hair. That one is taught. I'm pretty sure that one is a taught trait because men have long hair too, and um, but I like the things that I were taught to be, feminine. The hair thing, I'm sure I could easily learn. I've seen, very many beautiful women with short hair, but I do tend to, if I see another picture with their hair long, I tend to prefer the longer haired version. Um, but beside the point, that's getting off topic here. But just the fact you make something the top of what it's supposed to be instantly creates competition. And in these cases, I don't find it healthy. Cutest. Well, if someone else has kids, you're essentially saying my kid's cuter than yours. I know a ton of people who like to make the statement, and I guarantee you your kid is not cuter than a lot of other babies I've seen. Um, and not to be a dick, kid can be cute. My kids, and they're probably cutest to you. My kids aren't even the cutest to me, and my oldest was, Gerber baby looking. Um, puffy cheeks, you know, smiled a lot, sort of thing, and that was, he was cute. Cutest, no. Um, I think both my kids are good-looking boys, but I'm, and I'm sure I'm biased on that, like every parent, but you know, I mean, no different. And people will say it about different people in their lives. Oh, the smartest guy I've ever met, or the smartest person I ever met. And they'll say that about different people at different times, not realizing they've already assigned the smartest in their life. And maybe this person trumps that person, but most of us don't meet truly, truly, truly smart people. I mean, like crazy smart, like, because it, we also, consider smart differently. We consider it tend to be people can memorize in books. There's so many different versions. That's also, to me, impossible to give anybody the title of. We can test IQ, but we test IQ based on our own parameters, not the ability. I mean, IQ is supposed to be, um, at least my original understanding, and if I'm an idiot on this, I apologize. It was based on what was taught to me, and I didn't really research it. But hey, standard American, I got that, I guess. Um, or at least my understanding of it is, it's your potential to be able to learn and to process dynamic, problem solve. Your ability to problem solve is your intellectual ability, your scope of ability to learn and think, and maybe that's better. Your ability to think. But there's people who can, there's artists that are insanely good. They can see something once, they can reproduce it, they can see it differently according to their vision. Um, and while I can take that image that they create and I can put it on a computer and, essentially steal it, not really, but, I could, if I wanted to use it digitally, I can essentially make it so generic that people are like, and totally undo the magnificence of it. Not what I'm trying to do with the Eclipse thing, but, I just, this thing is, you go to Facebook, it dominates everything. People spent so much money and it just seems so ridiculous to me, um, because of the energy and stuff we put in. And I know people that are, you know, really nice, and but there's a ton of people I know where they always have to, they're the one-uppers as well. Like I've got to tell you a better story, or I know someone smarter, I know someone nicer, or or they're putting themselves in that role, or someone in their family. And I mean, have you ever met one of those guys? It's like, oh, you've heard a million stories about, Jim, and all of a sudden you meet Jim and you're like, Jim's a sociopath, or, or Jim's and, you know, he just impresses you. I don't know why. I mean, he's a rather unimpressive person. No different than strongest. Well, there's a world strongman competition. It measures certain strengths they train for. It's like great competition can be good, but creating it just by saying it with that est ending is, I just just like using the terms amazing or incredible or unbelievable, you know you hear that in sports all the time. It was unbelievable. Well, very few things are unbelievable. I mean, did the football turn into a soccer ball and he caught it in the end zone? That's unbelievable. I mean, making an amazing catch or like a really impressive catch is very cool, but awesome. Like, I mean, and some are like, how the heck did they do that? Definitely. I mean, I've seen some of those things that I would consider awesome. Not like watching an eruption, though. I mean, if that's the true definition, then watching a really cool catch, I mean, you really kill the power of the word. We like to create new ones. I don't know why. Our English language that we barely speak anymore has a ton of great words. So I guess my thing is, why don't we like, and I cannot claim being educated to any degree. I mean, more people in my life have college degrees. I don't have one. I definitely don't read all the time. I've mentioned the dyslexia thing. It's painful for me to read. I mean, I'll listen to stuff. I'll watch a ton of stuff. I'll try to read short articles. I try to stay educated and informed as I can, but reading book after book, or I just I need to figure out how to get around that. How to be a faster reader, how to have my vision not affect me so much when it comes to reading. Lazy eye, stigmatism, and a lot of people have vision issues, but like even the shape, it's really stressful for me to read between that and my dyslexia, and it. So I don't do it because I feel like I can be more effective other ways, and I listen to other people and talk about, and I get into a lot of interpretations. So it's still different viewpoints, but the words and don't need to be exaggerated to be, you know, cool. It doesn't have to be the bluest thing you ever saw. I mean, it was, you can learn to describe the color of blue. You can learn to describe, um, what it looked like without just saying it was the greatest thing I've ever seen. Not to mention, if that's the greatest day or the greatest event, aren't you automatically setting yourself up for everything else being less? Which, I mean, to me is kind of a depressing thought. I mean, I saw that a guy talking about, there's the biggest event in our lifetime. And I'm thinking, if that's true, I mean, I might as well end it because this isn't even that awesome to me. I mean, it's like it's a shadow under one strip of the earth. I mean, it's, definitely rare, but doesn't make it awesome. Doesn't make it a great event in life. It definitely marks a historical thing, and for certain groups of people, it's something they probably really want to study without having to spend extra money, being in that path to see how things react. I don't know, science stuff. But I don't know. It just seems like we're degrading. We're having to make something bigger than it is, and we're degrading other things that have more importance, more importance to spend time and energy on. I mean, again, historical event. I went outside, I saw the sliver with the glasses on. Um, I watched Doctor Who. You'll see a lot cooler things, or different sci-fi shows. You'll see some pretty cool things when they mimic worlds and suns dying and stuff like that. And it's visually more awesome. It's not historical, it's not factually important, but it's visually more striking. I mean, shoot, watching Avatar is visually more striking than this Eclipse we just watched. Um, so I guess just think about words you use. I mean, even in communicating with people, the words we choose, we can numb people and ourselves to something of real importance. No different than the person who whines all the time. Eventually, it might be a big deal, but you're so numb to them complaining. I mean, maybe listening to this, maybe I complain too much. Maybe people are laughing at me like, do you hear yourself? Um, and if that's the case, I hope I learn to pitch my ideas in a more positive light, because I really just want people to develop their ability to think and communicate, so the words we choose really do have meaning. Because if everything's great, or everything's the end of the world, or greatest day, best day, I mean, you're you know you hope it's not the best day. I mean, I hope my very best day is one of my last days on Earth, because otherwise, if I peak, before 40, the rest of my life coasting downhill, that would suck. I assume my best days are going to be when my kids and eventual, if I live long enough, grandkids of different, of two different marriages and all that other stuff. I mean, I'm hoping those are, you know, my best days, you know, done working, get to retire and, just do hobbies and stuff like that. I'm hoping those are my best days. I mean, those, at least to me, obviously not historically, but, I'm hoping in my lifetime I get to see a lot of this racism go away, people to understand each other and, you know, all that stuff. Those to me are things we put time and energy in. I mean, you watch news feeds and, we spend so much time and energy carrying what celebrities are doing. I like watching Chris Pratt movies. I mean, I've enjoyed Anna Faris and stuff. I really don't care what they're doing in their personal life, and I think for them, other than the fact it might get them more money being in the spotlight for their personal turmoil of their separation, I would hope they get to, you know, deal with this in private. It's a rough thing dealing with divorce, especially I can't imagine doing it with everybody in the world or, everybody who gives a crap about Hollywood going on in their personal life. That's stressful, especially since they have a child. Um, I think I wish we would care less. I mean, I still have no idea why the Kardashians, why anybody cares. I could give two shits. Um, I wouldn't even give that. I would be like, I could use that for fertilizer before I would even think, but I know who they are. I don't know any details. I've never watched an episode of anything. My way of protesting is not, being part of it. Yes, right now I'm griping and I make a reference. Does that keep them relevant? I maybe. Um, but I'm just saying it's an example I could think of. There's a ton, and I'm not going to list them because if you don't know who some of these things are, I don't want to bring them into your world. Um, celebrities' lives shouldn't be something you waste energy on. Read it, read the information. If you watch movies and all that stuff, you might be curious. I personally don't like knowing anything about artists' personal lives. I really don't. Yes, if I think they're neat, it might make me really root for them as an individual, but most likely they're going to have an opinion or do something that I don't like that's going to make it hard to enjoy their music, their TV show, their movies, watching sports, learning about athletes. Um, you know, these guys, especially nowadays, if you're an NFL player, you're under a microscope for everything you do, and I at best I can, root for the people who seem like good people who may not be the greatest athlete, and I can hate good athletes because you hear these things about their life, and I'm not even sure they're true. But you hear enough stories, you read enough into it, and you're like, well, you would think it's got to be at least partially true, otherwise it wouldn't be all over the place. Not naming names on any of that stuff, but there's players I think, based on everything I've heard and read, that I believe to be awful human beings, and I hope they get injured. And sadly, there's some pretty good athletes of them, so they tend to be praised, and it drives me bonkers. You're praising a dirt bag of a human being. And if I'm wrong, I'm hating someone who didn't do anything to deserve that hatred. Um, but again, I don't want to read about or their personal lives. It usually can only detract. Anyway, that's it for this particular thing because I'm starting to get off topic and meant for other things that I want to talk about later on. So again, please think about the words you use. Words are so powerful, and some of our greatest words are just becoming meaningless. So if you don't know what it means, I mean, dictionary, just start really utilizing it. And unfortunately, some of these definitions have changed in my lifetime to where what used to be one thing is now altered, as it has for, I'm sure, every generation or generations that see the English language, the American version of the English language change. Um, so anyway, that's it. Have a good one.